Bright suns and rising moons, fellow droids. Welcome to another episode of Not the Droids podcast. I'm Mayuri,
And I'm Danny.
and today we are talking about the season finale of Skeleton Crew. It aired Tuesday, January 14th, 2025, and was titled The Real Good Guys.
It's over. I really hope
I
we get a season two.
have so many questions still, but this episode, I gotta say, this episode was fire. Like from start to finish, it was everything. Everything we wanted, but it didn't answer a lot of questions.
Then that's why I'm hoping we get another season because it didn't
Yeah.
answer a lot of questions. And I was like watching the end title sequence, with the artwork. And I might be wrong. It looked like it was like the journey of the lightsaber that they found.
Yes, I actually watched, I usually don't watch through the end credits, but I noticed that too. Because like
Are you giving us an idea that like in the future we're gonna learn?
of like where that lightsaber came from.
Because it doesn't look like the Jedi ended well.
But that we kind of know, right? Because
Well, yeah, the lightsaber is,
yeah, the
but
lightsaber's
still,
there.
I was just like,
Techronod had it.
I'm like, this is a weird way to end the season if there aren't going to be more.
Well, because like you don't get like the final like what's gonna happen, right? Like it's very open-ended, and I think they did that on purpose just in case they did decide to do a second season.
I
I
want
think
it.
they started to kind of keep it open-ended so that they can explore it, right? Like
It
so like
it closed out that it could be a standalone season, but it
mhm.
would be great if it wasn't a standalone
Yeah,
season.
there's like so many things they could do with it now. That's
Yes.
still very different, right?
And
So,
they like, I know we're jumping so far ahead. They left it with, you could tell Wim now wants to fly X-Wings. We know
oh,
Wim's new plan. He's like,
oh yes.
don't need to
He's
take
like
assessment anymore. I know what my future is.
that moment was so funny at the end because they like destroyed that room and Vern was just like, "Well, you don't have to take assessment." He's like, "But no, I
It was a
mean,
nice loop back to like episode one of like Wim telling what he wanted to be and
and
essentially
actually
doing it.
yeah, and seeing a path for him to be different and better and
Mhm.
kind of on that path like path of a
And to be able
Jedi."
to help people even though the Jedi no longer exist.
Yeah. Do they not exist right now?
Well, based on what Wim knows, they said
They're
all the Jedi are dead when he was telling his story that the Jedi
oh
were all.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. That is true. But canonically they're not. They're rebuilding.
I'm not sure where they are in this.
We'll have to see. But this episode started, and I was just like, they started immediately after the last one, which was
Yes.
kind of nice. And it's just like, those kids are throwing off so many red flags in their behavior, and their parents are just like, yes, emissary, whatever you want, emissary. And I'm just like, they have been so conditioned to respect what they believe is the authority that they just don't
Mhm.
question anything, like how the kids are acting. Um, and they're being super sus. Like, wouldn't they be more excited if they were home and saved?
The show takes place shortly after the events of Return of the Jedi, and subsequent reports have revealed that the series occurs around the same time as The Mandalorian and Ahsoka,
Oh, yes.
clarifying that all three sets of characters are active around the same time. Therefore, Star Wars Skeleton Crew occurs at a time when the Jedi no longer exist as an organized peacemaking force, as Luke Skywalker is still in the process of rebuilding the order that Kylo Ren destroys during Disney's sequel trilogy. That
Yeah.
is
So
where
at
we
this
are.
point, like Luke Skywalker is really the only
He
Jedi
is
trained.
rebuilding.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, so I just like the scenes with Wendell and Wim are hilarious because Wim is so sus. He has no chill. Like,
I don't think he's
I don't,
sus. I think he's just the kid who doesn't
well, so
like,
like,
but also like Wendell. I love Wendell, but Wendell,
he doesn't,
you're not listening to your kid who just flew around the galaxy. You're not even watching for the signs. You're not even questioning it when he's like sitting at a dinner table, like,
that's why I'm saying he was acting so sus and trying to give him like so many clues that something weird was going on.
yes.
That's why I was just like, Wendell was like not even phased by any of it. And
Not even
even
like
when
Wendell was back to pre him leaving. Like it's like back to the beginning where he's like, we're
just like
back to
that
our norm.
robotic kind
This is,
of,
yeah, we're back on autopilot. This is what we do. This is what expected.
because like even when Wim was just like, people in the galaxy are, and I was like, he was very much trying to indicate
That
to his
something
dad
was up.
that something was up. Um, but then I still like when the security droid catches him and he just like panics and he's like, this is food. And that's where a human would have caught that
Yeah.
within a second. Be like, that's not what you're doing.
I'm like, Wim's been giving the proper red flags. Wendell's just
The
not
whole
picking
time.
up on. But even Fern's been given some red flags, and Mom's very
And
much.
Farah doesn't pick up on it. Like she's very much like, if you know your kids, like, why wouldn't you be like, why are you acting like this?
KB's parents,
From the
do what you
they
need
were
to
like,
do. Stay safe. We believe in you. We know you can do this.
they're so support. They like know that kid inside out.
Yeah.
Neil being in a bubble bath,
My headcanon is that Neil is taking a bubble bath because now that he has explored the galaxy, he has the confidence and he's gonna go say hi to Runa.
that's like his long-term plan. That
He is
like let me,
confident. He can now go say hi to the girl he likes.
well, because at that point, like the security, like, so when Neil and Wim communicated, Neil's like, I can't do anything. The security droids are watching me. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get in trouble. Um, and Wim is still very much like, we have to help, because that was honestly, I was a little like frightened when Jod was like, yeah, Fern and Mom, come with me. And I was like, oh, that is a threat to all of the kids,
And the kids all
all of
know that
them.
Fern is not home safe taking a bubble bath.
No.
It's like,
And she's not safe with a Republic emissary that all the parents think she is. So, like, that's where I'm just like, ugh. But even when the power goes out with all of that, Wendell doesn't stray from the thinking that everything is okay. And
not
the
until Wim is
supervisor,
like, oh, the hover bikes still work?
my favorite is when Wim comes barreling into the room and just shoves the security droid over,
Yep.
like shoves it. It's like, no,
I've been trying to
but
tell you all night.
like obviously there's something weird going on.
Yes.
But the whole scene where Fern and Undersecretary Farah go up to the supervisor tower with John, it answered some questions. She knows that
Yeah.
it's a droid
It,
running.
it is, I know it's a droid, but it's a
It
droid
is,
head. Like, it is like the cap, it is the head of like an R2 unit. Like, it's
I
like
don't, I, it's like a
more.
very Humpty Dumpty droid head. And then like it was hilarious. And I love that Jod is like, you're run by a droid? And she's very much like, yeah, as decreed by the great work. Like,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, at least we find out. Cause like the way that it's situated is in that center. So, like on Hana's planet in the supervisor tower, there was nothing in that
It's
space.
very Doctor Who Bad Wolf episode.
There's nothing in that space on the other supervisor towers. So,
It's
they must,
dusty.
yeah.
It's
And so I don't know. It's just really funny, but I do like how sentient it is
yeah.
because it was just like, I'm glad to
We've
see
been
that your
watching you. I'm
daughter's,
glad you're back.
Yeah, and it's just like one of our most dedicated citizens, like calling her out for being such a like follower.
So
Oh
Magic
yes.
with Meg said something, and I read it and I was like, this is so true. Leia Organa would be so proud of Fern.
Oh yes.
Those two in a scene together would be, I was like, yes.
It really would be. And I feel like Kid Leia would look up to her.
I mean,
Like
adult Leia would be like,
Fern pushed all of Jod's buttons
yeah,
the
no,
whole time.
oh, yes.
The whole time. But it was interesting to see how much Fern's mom had an understanding of the systems in the supervisor tower. So I wonder if that's part of her training, that she actually understands everything about what's up there.
But we also
She
see that Wendell knows how to work it all too. He's like, I know how to get the power up. That's why I have this job.
level 7 systems.
Level 7 over here. Of course, I can get the power back on.
But that's why it's like they all actually understand how stuff works.
Yeah,
So it's there is no mystery of how this planet is
there's
running.
mystery outside this planet, but within the planet, they understand why the barrier is there and that they can take it down.
Yeah, and
There's a
also
big red button, essentially.
Fern's mom knows how to code ships to get through the barrier,
Mhm.
which I thought was interesting
But
because
you
like we
figure if there were ships that were regularly emissary ships, you would have needed to know that. And they probably, if they are the mint, the money has to go somewhere.
yeah, like in and out somewhere. So that's where it's just like
Hmm.
it is cool to see that like all of these random things we weren't sure about, like the adults knew the whole time. They know
Yeah.
it's a droid. They know I was very sad that it was not Tack Renaud sitting in the supervisor tower, lording over these people as a
Our KB just kind of won this
oh,
KB and SM33
oh. Well,
did.
KB spearheaded the kids from the
Oh,
get. Like
yeah.
you can tell that she
KB is
went
the
to
leader
Neil's.
of the pact. Like, Fern is like the attitude of a leader of the pack. KB's pulling all the strings.
Well, she just like thinks very differently, right?
Yes.
Because like she saw it, and the first thing she did, you could tell, is like get on her speeder, go to Neil. Her
Mm-hmm.
and Neil went to him.
Yes.
And I love that Wendell's still just like tinkering in the car that's not working. And I have to give it to
But
Wendell.
we still see that like he knows how to turn on the power, so maybe he's thinking, I might be able to fix this. So he's
Yeah, maybe
trying.
he's trying. But I love the moment where like the kids go off on their hover bikes and he's just like, I'm gonna steal this bike from this kid.
Yep.
Um, but you have to, I honestly like I have to give my props to Wendell in this episode
I loved Wendell in this
because
episode.
think about his life. It is very regimented. He does not
Mhm.
bulk at authority. And he was on a hover bike, speeding down the road, getting
He's been saying
shot
he's like,
at.
Wim, I weigh more than you. This won't work.
And I love where women's just like at this point, he's like, trust KB. She knows.
Yeah,
She already thought of that.
got it for you.
And like the moment when he landed, and he was like, "Oh my God." Like that
Yeah.
was probably the most thrilling
He's
thing
like
that
now
he has
having
done.
fun, even
Yeah.
though they're like on this dangerous mission. And to the point that by the time they get to the ship and there's another mission, he's like, I can do this. And
He's
like
like, I could do it.
he's even like hiding in the elevator.
God, that was such a good plan. Wim's story was so outlandish that I can't believe Jod
Fern just
fell for
goes with
it.
it. It's so funny because like Fern goes with it, and Fern's mom is like, "What are they
What?
talking
I know
about?"
she's fine. Like, I don't like she did not catch what they were doing, but it was such a good misdirect for Jod. Like Jod didn't
Hmm.
even notice that Wendell was like messing with the systems.
Yeah,
And so that's where I was just like, that was such a smart plan. And Wendell even later apologizes to Wim for being the weak link in the like part where they were trying to bring down the barrier and he
yeah,
got caught with like the lightsaber at his throat, right?
yeah.
And this is where I don't think Jod intended to hurt anybody. Like, not anybody, but the kids.
Yeah.
Because so KB is badass, right? Like she came up with a plan to contact Kim to get the X-Wings, and it was a really good plan.
Great.
And I don't know how she did it, but she got SM-33 online even without a head.
SM-33. Have you seen the relation of his name to another Disney character?
No.
Smee from Peter Pan, who is the captain's first hand. Yeah, don't
Are
tell
you
me you
talking about
haven't seen Peter Pan.
the cartoon Peter Pan?
Any Peter Pan, because Smee is in all of them.
I've only seen Hook.
There are certain things I can forgive you for, but the amount of times Peter Pan has been redone and made and
I
that
know.
story
I
told.
want to say I wonder I have definitely seen it when I was a child, but I don't remember it.
Well, Smee is Hook's first officer.
So that's definitely where his name comes from.
SMEE,
Yeah.
SM-33
Yeah.
is the first officer on the ship to the captain.
That's definitely where his name comes from. And I'm glad that you
We can't go
understand the
further because
reference.
you haven't seen Peter Pan.
I mean, I understand the story, I just don't know the details of it. We watched very different things when I was younger.
So no tackmanod.
Yeah, we didn't get that, but like the
Trying
KB
to think of like
moment,
our other theories that were not happening.
I mean, I did not expect them to bring down the barrier completely, to be honest.
I was under. Feel like it needed to come down because there was no second season possible with the barrier still intact.
That's
So
true.
we need to open them up to the world again.
This scene, when we go down to just the scene when KB comes down and Jod is pissed. He's like, "You do not understand because they left people outside the barrier, right?" He
Hmm.
knows that the kids don't know that. And he was genuinely upset when they thought that KB crashed, which I knew she didn't because there was no, the poof.
It was a,
They, it
and
was
there
just
was
like a
nothing after. So I'm like, no, she's good.
she's good. I wasn't so worried, but like where he was like, it didn't have to be this way. And that's where I was just like, I don't think he ever really truly intended to hurt those kids by his hand. And then like the moment where so I've watched this episode twice now, and my favorite scene in the whole episode is as the barrier comes down and John is in frame, all bright, and
Yes.
you just see his face and like just the resignation on it that like he had what he wanted in grasp, and like his luck in life is such, right? Because we did get Jod's backstory a little
What
bit.
is frustrating about this is that had Jod not been so greedy,
It would have been
would have
fine.
given him, they're like, here's a trunk. Thank you for bringing our children. Here's some credits. Because to them, it's not
But
rare.
I don't think for Jod it was just about the credits. I think for Jod it was about the fact that one, they could buy the whole galaxy with the amount of money on that planet.
I also think it
Um,
goes into name recognition. He wants the glory.
Power.
Yeah.
Like because they
I'm
called it
not
an
gonna hurt you all. You're just
invasion.
gonna work for me so we can create more money.
They called it an invasion. So like they were very much trying to take over the planet and
Oh yeah.
keep it separated from the galaxy so that they could run the money
Yeah.
and also have somewhere to hide. Right? So like I think for Jod it was a lot more than just the credits. The more he learned about Atten, it was way more than just the credits. Because like in the beginning it was very much like he'll return them, he'll get money, he'll leave.
Yeah.
Um But as they figured it out, it was very clear that he wanted the power. And I understand. So when they go into his backstory, which is so heartbreaking, right? Like the way he says to Wim that, like, when I was your age, I was living in a hole
Yeah.
and starving. And I think there's a part of him that resents how, like, spoiled these kids are compared to how the galaxy is, right? Like, and it's very much like the one time he had hope in his childhood, it was destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his understanding of the galaxy. And that you have to do anything you can to keep whatever he calls it, like a pinprick of light that you can.
Yeah.
And it's very clear it doesn't matter how that affects other people. It's just his pinprick.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think he wanted this planet to be for himself. Like he's top dog. He has as much money as he wants. He'll never go hungry. And he doesn't have to worry about the galaxy because they don't know anything about them. Yeah. It was
What are your thoughts on, so they talked about how Jod met a Jedi who taught him some tricks. Do we think this Jedi was a Jedi, like formally, and that I don't think Jod was trained as a Jedi.
no, I have a feeling that that Jedi was maybe a Padawan that escaped. Not maybe not even a Padawan, but like
I feel like it was someone that like left the Jedi Order that may have been trained previously because it just sounds like if you're picking up a kid that has force sensitivities and you're teaching them tricks to essentially cheat people out of things, I'm like, this is like a Jedi gone wrong.
but here's the thing, do we know that it's just tricks? Like the way he describes this person is like she was also scraggly and down a bad way, right? Like so this is so if we think about when Jod is a kid, so like timeline wise, it is when all of the Jedi were being hunted down
Mhm.
in the galaxy, right? So I would assume that was around the time Order 66 happened. I don't really, I hear that name a lot, but like,
I love when you're like, I'm gonna go with this. I haven't seen it. I don't know the timeline, but we're gonna go with it.
I know the words kind of. But like
I'm curious to find out more.
like when
Um,
the Empire rose
yeah.
and they, and because like the supervisor says it, right? Like the
Hmm.
last message that we received was that Jedi are not our friends, right? Like
Yeah.
they're bad and they need to be eradicated.
Yeah.
And so you could see on his face the moment where he realized that he was effed because he's been relying on the Jedi trick to get by. And so that's where I'm just like, I wonder if that also brought him back to the trauma of the person that he looked to for hope
Yeah.
being hunted down and killed in front of him for being a Jedi.
I love the supervisor just being like, you're either lying because the Jedi are not on our side, or you're not an emissary. So which one is it?
Which one is it?
Which
And then
lie
when
are you telling?
which lie are you telling? And then
Or is
Fern was
it
like,
both?
my favorite is like Fern was like, he's a pirate. And the thing was like, I thought so. I thought that was so funny. But
There is
in
more
that,
to this droid is not just a droid. This
no,
is a
it's
sentient, it
machine
has
learning
human
at
thought.
its fine. But that's why I was saying like the supervisor is a droid above. Like it
Yeah.
is not just like the security droids. It's not like that. It
No.
has critical thinking skills. It
Critical thinking can make plans for an entire planet, is not relying on someone to feed them the information. I don't think Tack Renard was the intelligence behind this. It's too intelligent for it to be the pirate.
but I'm curious like if they have the capability in the old republic to create this sort of droid. Like
I mean, everything's droids, but it makes me think of KB in a way, where KB is essentially part
part
droid,
droid.
but she has all her faculties still. They're just enhanced in a different way.
Do you think it's like the reverse for the supervisor? Do you think it used to be like a sentient being that they kind of,
Uploaded into a droid, maybe. It's
and
that's
that's
feeling
why?
very Doctor
You know
Who
what
bad
it
book,
reminds
but
it feels very, what's the thing from, from Wally? The the pinwheel thing. What was his name in
mm,
Wally? But like he was a droid that was tasked with a task and was doing crazy shit because of it.
but I feel like it's more that its tasks were like it's like it's following the rule book.
Yeah. But even when the rule book isn't being followed, like you
But
can't
I
build in
feel like the
protocols for what's
supervisor is
happening.
adapting as
Yeah.
things happen, and that's the difference.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, you can't build in protocols for what happened, but he's
No.
still, the supervisor is still rolling with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It
I wish we would have seen more Kim.
we barely got Kim, but I wish we would have seen more Kim, but I understand why we barely got Kim.
But
Like,
if there's a season two, I bet we see her.
yeah, so what would you want from a season two?
I think where it is leave where it is currently at the show. I think it goes into seeing the planet embracing that they're now part of the galaxy and that there's maybe like the kids go on out on another adventure, not lost in space, but like to explore or to go with like the parents who are now like tasked because they've been in the middle of this. So they're now like, well, you're now our emissaries. We need you to go like meet with the X-Wing because your kids started this all. So I don't know. Because I feel like it still needs to be kid focused. It still needs to be about the kids and their families.
So that's where I would say it's hard for me to imagine a season two, to be honest, as much as I would
Mhm.
like one, because there is, to me, no world where the kids get sent out on their own
I
into
don't
the
think they get us sent out
galaxy.
on their own.
But I would be, so I'm more of a logistics person.
Mhm.
I would love to see the logistics of how the New Republic deals with this planet that just came up out of nowhere
Yep.
and has so much money,
So much resources. No defense system anymore.
no
Defenses are
defense
gone.
system.
It is there for the picking. There's
We
that
did not
side of
even,
it, which this feels too political for the show I want. And I know
that's
a
what I'm
lot
saying
of
is
Star Wars
like,
is political, but maybe there's like a situation where it's like the kids go on another adventure, which may be to find out like the history of the lightsaber, because like that's something I want. Or like they find something out. I just keep thinking of the end credit scenes following the lightsaber.
but like maybe that's just what it's for, to kind of show us
I don't
the
know.
journey. So that's where it's just like I would be interested in seeing the more political side of it.
There's
And
enough.
that's,
There's so much
huh?
political in Star Wars. I don't want it in Skeleton.
I know, but that's why I'm just like, it's there's no place for that in Skeleton Crew.
Or maybe our friend Wim, young Wim, joins
Rosa
up. Maybe there's like some kids ROTC situation
with
and
the
they go to space
X-Wings.
camp.
Yeah. Well, because at this point, the people on the planet, even though the adults know what's going on, they have no knowledge of the war, of the New Republic,
They're
of
not
what's
caught up.
going on. So, like, they're even so the first, the adults have to bring all of the children up to speed,
Mm-hmm.
and then the adults all also need to be brought up to
Yeah.
speed because they also like are not trained to exist in this sort of galaxy, right?
Knowing the time period, what characters would you maybe want to see interact with this world?
Knowing the time period. I mean, I have only seen The Mandalorian in terms of the time frame and Boba Fett. but I feel like they're in a very different part of the galaxy. But I would love to see a Grogu Neil situation
I've seen quite a few of those memes.
because Neil is such a beautiful little baby. Like we didn't even talk about like the fact that he got blown off his hover bike and was like, "I'm fine," and then did a barrel roll to avoid detection. Okay, Neil, who
Work it, Neil.
and he's just like, "We need some cover. I got it." I died because I was like, I knew it. I knew the Hana planet situation was going to come through. And so I would love to see Neil in kind of some weird, like,
You just want the Neil
situations.
show.
I just want the Neil show. Like, if anybody was to be an emissary in the future, like, honestly,
I want Neil's friend to come back.
Runa,
Not Runa.
Hana.
Hana.
So here's the thing now that their planets are both open, right? I would kind
That's
of
the
love,
adventure. Remember, we found out all these planets are the same. That's the adventure, is finding out what all these planets are connected. Because it was the echo copy of this planet. That's what we need to find out. Is why
and
are
like
we?
I want to meet the other planets as well.
Yes.
What was the fate of the other jewels of the Republic? And
Yes.
so like and then watching this one go, right? Because like we know on Hana's planet the supervisor tower is deserted. There is no supervisor droid there because that space was empty. So how I still don't understand like how did their planet get to that point? Like, at what point did they destroy the barrier? Because now we know it had to have been done internally.
So, and maybe with them, their droid supervisor was destroyed way earlier.
Yeah.
So, well,
But that's where I'm just kind of like, those are the things. And I think that's more just because, like, I like seeing how things came to be and,
mhm.
like, why we are. Whereas
I
I think
want
you're
the
very much
jewel
like,
to be
you want
discovered. I want to
the
know all of it.
adventures.
I
I
want,
still want to know what happened to Tak Renad because, like, who was he? Because we
yeah.
didn't get a clear image of him.
Nope.
And, like, I still kind of think he could be a droid, right?
There's
We don't know enough about him. Also, what did the Pleasure Planet do with the giant treasure trove that they found underneath their mountain? Like, especially
but did they find it? The pirates found it. Our people found
so honestly, if I was a smart cookie, I would have seen Jod pop out of a manhole with treasures abound. And once the pirates left, I would have been like, let's send
Let's
someone
go
down the
exploring.
same manhole
I mean,
and
that
figure
planet's
out where
already
they came
rich.
from. I know, but
They're
it's
gonna get
so
to the
sh-
acid pool and be like, think we're okay.
but yeah, no, that's where I'm just like, I don't see a real clear path for a season two that is
But it's
sustainable, like
Star Wars, so
storyline
it's completely
wise.
possible, and we just don't see it yet. I'm holding out hope.
Yeah.
Don't take my hope.
Yeah. Who would you want to see them interact with?
I love Ahsoka. I don't think it's
Well,
logical.
because here's the thing, Jod, it's not a done deal that Jod's gonna get caught. I mean, it kind of is,
There's not a lot of ships to get off this planet.
but he could hide.
It's one planet now
I
with a bunch of
know.
X.
Our space, our pirate Urkel is dead.
Yeah, he's gone.
That was sad. And he was like so like stay on your station, stay on the
Yeah,
ship. And
he's
I was just like, abandon
so
ship,
loyal.
bro.
Captain goes down with the ship, and he at that
Yeah.
point he was the captain.
Yeah, no. Um, I don't know.
What
I
comes next?
yeah. Yes. So after this, we're gonna finish Young Jedi Adventures, right? Season two,
Me too.
of the shorts, and then what we believe to be the first drop of the season.
Yeah.
Um, because I think there might be a second drop
We think
later
there'll
in the
be a
year.
second. We talk about it in the episodes, but we'll
Yeah,
see. So
yeah.
once that's updated, we'll keep you posted on the schedule changes. Then we go into the Acolyte, And then we're going to do Andor season 1 in preparation for Andor season 2.
which is perfect because I've never seen either of those things.
So that's kind of our schedule at this point. And then I want to leave you with this from our dear, awesome, amazing, phenomenal show that is Skeleton Crew. Yeah, the galaxy is scary and dangerous. Everywhere we went, even the worst places, there were good people too. So remember, we're not the droids you're looking for.
But we're the droids you're gonna get.